Hey, welcome to another edition of 5 Minute News. I have some interesting stories for you, so let's get right into it. These pages are blank. EA posted a tweet last week that had the internet kind of pissed. The tweet read, "They're a 10, but they only like playing single-player games." Now this is going off of a TikTok trend, basically a game where you make up a fake person, give them a rating on attractiveness and scale from 1 to 10, but then say they have another quality that may affect that number. So say like they're a 6, but they're funny, so they might actually be an 8. Or something like that instead. So what EA is doing here is they're saying they're a 10, but they only play single player games, which most people took as that would bring that number down. This tweet received a lot of backlash because there's a lot of people out there that like single player games, and EA is kind of known for those multiplayer games that have a lot of things like loot boxes and kind of a pay to win scheme. They get a lot of funny responses like this one that says, "Ah yes, EA, the foremost expert on 10s," and showed a bunch of games that got pretty bad scores on Metacritic. Then we get another tweet that says, "When these are your multiplayer games, what else are we supposed to play?" It's funny to see responses like this one from Vince Zampella, which is just a facepalm emoji. Now if you're not familiar with who Vince is, he's the head of Respawn Games, who arguably makes EA's best single player game, Jedi Fallen Order, and their sequel, Jedi Survivor. Actually, I would argue that Jedi Fallen Order is probably the best EA game to come out in the past few years, and it's a single player only game. This response though, this is the response that makes this whole thing that much more painful. The tweet reads, "This is the company that shut down my studio and laid off about 100 great developers because we were making a single player game." He goes on to say, "Also, if you break game rating scores down to a 10-point scale, most EA games are a solid 6 or 7, and not because the developers are bad, but because EA, the corporation, forces them to rush games out. EA corporate leadership wouldn't know what a 10 looks like in terms of video games." After all the backlash, EA did respond on Twitter saying, "Roast well deserved. We'll take this L because playing single-player games actually makes them an 11. In 2018, EA actually made the worst companies in America list. I think it was actually the #1 worst company in the United States. And these responses are very clear evidence of that. Next, we have some news from Ubisoft. In September of this year, they're going to be decommissioning some servers, closing out some online services for some older games, about 15 or so. According to an article on Ubisoft's website, they're shutting down these servers so that they can focus those resources on enhancing the experience on newer and more popular titles. In the article, they list the 15 games that they'll be decommissioning the online services for. Those games include Anno 2070, a bunch of Assassin's Creed games including Assassin's Creed 2, 3, Brotherhood, Liberation HD, and Revelations, Driver San Francisco, Far Cry 3, Ghost Recon Future Soldier, Prince of Persia Forgotten Sands, Rayman Legends, Silent Hunter 5, Space Junkies, Splinter Cell Blacklist, and Zombie U. In the changes to functionality section, there seems to be one common thread. In that section, it says you will be unable to play multiplayer, link Ubisoft accounts in-game, or use online features. While it doesn't appear that the DLC will be affected for consoles like PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, it does appear that most of these games, the PC version, you will no longer be able to download any DLC for these games past September of this year. I can definitely understand not hosting the multiplayer anymore. Most of these games multiplayer are probably not played anymore, but the DLC is important. It's something that someone has actually paid for already, but making it not available kind of sucks. In a strange turn of events, Xbox Live's Games with Gold will no longer feature Xbox 360 games as of October of this year. An email was sent out to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Xbox Live Gold members that states, beginning October 1st, 2022, the monthly games provided to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Xbox Live Gold members via Games with Gold will no longer include Xbox 360 titles. We have reached the limit of our ability to bring Xbox 360 games to the catalog. However, Games with Gold will continue to include exciting Xbox One titles and exclusive savings each month. This will not impact any Xbox 360 games that you downloaded before October 2022. Any Xbox 360 titles that you redeem via Games with Gold before that time are yours to keep on your Xbox account, regardless of whether you continue your subscription. Thank you for being a loyal member. Oddly enough, the Xbox 360 games that are given out with the Xbox Live Games with Gold service were actually games you got to keep. The Xbox One games, you basically just have a license for it as long as you continue to pay for Xbox Live Gold or for Game Pass Ultimate. But once you lose that subscription, you lose access to those games. Whereas the Xbox 360 games, you did get to keep no matter what. There were a lot of rumors going around about Nintendo releasing a brand new Switch, but those rumors actually turned out to be something different than people expected. It seems a lot of people were pretty sure Nintendo was going to be announcing some new hardware soon. They did file a new trademark for the letters NSW. They've been stockpiling some raw materials recently, and they did set 2 videos on their YouTube channel to private. Those 2 videos being Nintendo Switch Lite and Nintendo Switch OLED. Now you might ask, why does this really even matter? Well, Nintendo's actually done this before. For Nintendo Switch Lite in the Switch OLED, they privated videos that were other hardware announcement trailers so that when people searched for it, they were able to find the brand new one more easily. And now that they're doing it again, it seemed pretty obvious that Nintendo Switch hardware is going to be announced, especially since they didn't have any first-party games or hardware in their recent Direct. I was actually going to make a completely separate video about this topic, but then this morning, Nintendo did announce some new hardware. It was a Splatoon 3 themed OLED Switch. And now, yeah, they did announce new hardware, but it wasn't the hardware people wanted. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really does help the channel. It tells YouTube this is a good video and more people should see it. And if you like short form news videos like this, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. If you have any thoughts about any of the news stories in this video, please let me know in the comments below and I'll see you in the next one.